Identified as one of the worst epidemics in human history, the plague that went viral during the 13th and 14th centuries wiped out 1/3 of the European population. Though it's been more than 6 centuries, it still makes us tremble just to hear the name. Some people think that the Black Death has been left in the past, like smallpox. But recently, 2 people were diagnosed with the Black Death and have been quarantined. One of them is even in critical condition. They have been walking around Beijing for 10 days. Since the Black Death spreads through the air, the Chinese authorities are denying it, but there is the possibility of further infection. Currently, all articles related to the Black Death on China's major SNS are being controlled. In the U.S., Paul Gaylord, a veteran living in Oregon, was infected with the Black Plague after pulling out a rat caught in the throat of a stray cat. Though Gaylord survived, his fingers and toes had to be amputated, all because the cat was infected with the Black Death. Has the epidemic of the Middle Ages revived? Is there any chance the disease will spread worldwide? Let's find out a little bit more about the Black Death. The pandemic of the Black Death reached a peak in Europe between 1346 and 1353, killing at least 75 to 200 million people on the Eurasian continent. The Black Death originated in the dry plains of Central Asia and spread to Europe by the Mongolian Empire through the Silk Road. In 1347, during the siege attack on the city of Kaffa, present-day Feodosia, on the Crimean Peninsula, the Kipchak Khan of Mongolia used the dead bodies of soldiers infected with the Black Death as a biological weapon by catapulting the bodies over the city walls. As a result, the Black Plague spread across the city. Genoan merchants, along with the rats infected with the Black Death, fled the city, and shortly afterwards the ships arrived at the port of Sicily. Most of the crew members of the ship were already infected with the Black Plague, and all of them died shortly after reaching the port. This was the first time the Black Plague reached Europe. Afterward, the Black Death that had spread throughout Italy also spread through Europe. Plague, once called pest, is a contagious bacterial infection that arises from a bacterium known as Yersinia pestis. The fleas from the rats in the infected area are the main reason for the spread of plague. The bacteria in the flea invade when they suck on human blood. That is, the fleas in the dead wild animals are accidentally spread to humans, resulting in infection. Even if you haven't been bitten by the fleas, just handling the infected animals or coming in contact with the fluids from the dead bodies or from the pus of the plague patients can infect you. You can also be infected by the saliva expelled when the plague patient coughs. Delayed treatment causes death through acute respiratory distress, meningitis, and sepsis. Plague does not have any preventative vaccines, but it can be treated with appropriate antibiotics. If the antibiotics are not administered in time, the mortality rate can be very high, reaching 50 to 100%. With proper treatment, the rate drops to 5 to 50%, still pretty high. The best way to reduce the mortality rate is to administer antibiotics as early as possible, within 2 days. If a person who has been to a contagious region is suspected of carrying the disease, he or she must be quarantined immediately and receive antibiotics to prevent transmission to other people. The Black Death can be cured as long as it receives prompt treatment. It is very unlikely that the disease would now spread worldwide as it did in the Middle Ages, since its transmission and pathological features are well known. Currently, the scope of the Black Death has been reduced and turned into an endemic disease that only occurs sporadically in a region. In fact, since the 1990s, it has mainly occurred in the Congo and Madagascar in Africa and in Peru. Between 2010 and 2015, 3,200 patients were diagnosed and around 580 people died. Even in the United States, there has been a small but steady number of Black Death cases found in humans every year, mainly in the western rural areas. Recently, intermittent cases of Black Death have occurred in northern New Mexico, northern Arizona, southern Colorado, California, southern Oregon, and western Nevada. Plague is often thought of as a disease that has disappeared into history, but the plague bacteria remains, and cases even occur in developed nations like the United States. Mostly, the disease can be caught by coming in contact with wild animals, so if you are traveling in such regions, make sure to watch out for rats and spray your surroundings with pesticides to avoid getting flea bites.